Yo, what's going on? What's going on? For those who are joining, I'm Marcus Hart. This is the Urban News Journal. I definitely want to welcome my Rumble people out there. This is the first time you got a chance to catch me. It is a pleasure to be able to have you guys and be able to, introduce myself. So we gonna kick it off here. We got some things on the way, and I definitely do not want to delay. You like the wordplay on that? You like the wordplay on that? So let me make sure my hair is good. What's going on? Where is everybody from? Make sure you meet me halfway and drop where you from. Where are you from? Are you on the East Coast? Are you on the South Side? Maybe you are somewhere in the Midwest where I'm at, or maybe you are on the West Coast, or the East Side. Let me know. Okay. Once again, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button. Drop a comment. All of that above does pushes the stream through the algorithm so more and more people can get to it. So speaking of getting to it, you know, tonight, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to think about tonight. Um, And by tradition, I always end up looking down at my phone just to make sure the stream is strong, which it is. That's awesome. That's awesome. The stream is strong. Okay. So tonight, Milwaukee's. So actually, it wasn't tonight. It happened this week. But Milwaukee's own just won a photo finish. So our now county executive is the Democratic nominee for the governor of Wisconsin. Don't figure, right? Don't figure. You know what I'm saying? So in this same week, though, on something a little bit more serious and that hits close to home, a 16-year-old named Armani Thomas Cotton didn't make it home. Shot Thursday morning, blocks from where a lot of us grew up. Let that sink in for a minute. So same city, same week, two headlines that tell you everything about where we are right now. And the way I feel is, anything is unpredictable. Okay? All things in life are unpredictable. You don't know, what may come your way. All we do know is that there's different possibilities. Okay? One day you might be county executive and then all of a sudden you're the governor nominee. One day you could be just riding down the block and then someone strikes you, or you strike somebody, with a vehicle. There's so many things that can happen. And you know, my feelings about all this is like, man, I gotta make sure that I'm living life. I gotta make sure that I get to where I'm trying to get to in life. So I'm Marcus Hart once again. This is the Urban News Journal, independent, objective, unafraid, and we are live. Okay. So once again, hit that subscribe button if you are new here. Costs you absolutely nothing to do that. And it tells YouTube, it tells Rumble, I believe, to put more of this in front of people. And hit the like too. That goes a long way in growing this thing in real time. All right. So what did you guys do this week? Okay. Did you vote this week, in the primary? Did you happen to step out and go to a movie on Tuesday? Maybe you seen Spider-Man Brand New Day. Those who are on the late show and really hate people spoiling. So tell me where you're from. All right. While you doing that, while you thinking about that, let's get into it. Segment 1, up for grabs. And I got my ginger ale tonight. So we in for a treat. with this one. So we gonna start with Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley. He's now the Democratic nominee for governor of Wisconsin. He beat State Representative Francisca Hung in a race that came down to the less than 1% percentage point. I mean, it was narrow. I mean, rubbing together narrow. It was narrow enough to think that it was some cheating involved. So the Associated Press called it after Hung conceded, the Democrat Socialists, which took a recount off the table entirely. So, people can suspect some weird stuff happening. And it was some weird stuff that happened, by the way. Because there was an instance of, we had I don't want to say what it was. Matter of fact, let me look it up. Okay, I'm going to look it up because I don't want to get it right. Milwaukee primary ballot box eras 2026. So, okay. So what they're calling it is human error forces delay in the Milwaukee primary. So, to be more specific, and this coming from this comes from WISN ABC. Human error forces delay in primary. Matter of fact, let me just share my screen with you guys so we can read along like we in school. Let's read along like we in school. It's reading time. Okay. So election officials said 5 or 9 USB sticks were missing results from the election. Okay. So, this was updated 2 days ago. And because of the USB being lost or whatever or what have you, Milwaukee voting results for the 2026 were delayed. The City of Milwaukee Election Commission Executive Director Paulina Gutierrez said they discovered 5 of the 9 flash drives brought to Central Count had the audit log downloaded and not the results. And what she says, it's human error. Is it really human error? I would question it. Is it deliberate human error or is it accidental? What was it? Because if you ask me, it seems very fishy. And then all of a sudden we have this very narrow gap. Not saying that I was rooting for Francisca Hung. Not saying I was really rooting for Crowley because he still has a lot of questions that he needs to answer. I got a ton of them because Milwaukee County is not in the best shape, like the way they want to put it out there. Okay, so back to this article here. Gutierrez said nearly 15,000 ballots had yet to be counted. 15,000 ballots. That's quite a bit. That's enough for a narrow margin. I don't know, maybe. So, when asked by WISN 12 News Hannah Hilliard if this was all as simple as somebody pressing the wrong button, Cortera said correct. She didn't even hide it. She just put it out there like, yeah, somebody pressed the wrong button. And it could have been intentional or it could have been accidental. We don't really know. But anyways, as soon as the AP was reported 94% of the votes had been counted, with Crowley leading, Hung over 3,000 votes for the Democratic nomination for Wisconsin governor. Tom Tiffany won in a landslide for the Republican nomination for governor. Okay. So Crowley finished with 65,131 votes for 43%, 43.0% of the total vote count. And Hong finished with 62,739 votes. Okay. Therefore, Crowley finished with 2,392 more votes than Hong. Now, if we roll this back, it said 15 ballots haven't been counted yet. So, do we absolutely know that this right here is true? Is this really the final tally, or are we just going to anoint Crowley, and not wait for these 15 ballots to be counted? Some say, well, oh well, he's probably going to get majority of them anyways, and he still win. He still lead by, a margin, a razor thin margin, of course. But that's what I. That's exactly what I'm afraid of, man. I'm afraid of like things like this being able to just be water under the bridge. Why? Why is it able to be that way? I don't get it. Why are we able to just ignore stuff like that as though it's not a problem? I wonder. Do you? I wonder a lot. Something's wrong. So yeah, the recount was off the table once Hong conceded, and she could have been forced to concede. I mean, if it was me, I wouldn't. That's too thin of a margin. Only 2,000 some votes. That's not really a lot, folks. So Hong had been the national media's front runner going in. They were rooting for a democratic socialist. She had the real energy behind her campaign, some would say. In her concession, she said, and I quote, and I'm not quoting her directly, but she said something along the lines of, "We have built something that will change politics forever. The work we have done will be remembered forever." Yeah, we want to keep it a memory. We don't need none of that Democrat socialist stuff. We don't need that. That's too far on the extreme left. Okay, get the hell out of here. So Crowley's team, meanwhile, is already it's already talking about the general election. His campaign said he's, quote, focused on bringing people together, earning the support of Democrats, Republicans, independents, and anyone who believes Wisconsin is best when we work together. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how you said it too. No joke. So here's a part I want Milwaukee to sit with, right? Crowley has run this county since 2020. And by the way, he was 17th District Assemblyman here in Milwaukee, which was a seat that I also ran for. I ran with, alongside this, against this guy. We had our own little squabble in 2016. He took that by a margin, and I did pretty well. As a newcomer, with no political experience, oh man, I killed it. And I would have performed much better if we not had a third individual enter into the race at the last minute. Like this person just came out of nowhere, out of the thin air, and jumped in the race with us, and she took a lot of my votes, which was like wildly disappointing. Very disappointing. But back to the story at hand. And for those who are joining and watching, I'm Marcus Hart. This is the Urban News Journal, independent, objective, and unafraid. Hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed to us so you don't miss a beat of live streams and episodes. Also, hit that like button. Drop a comment where you're from. What are you thinking about this whole, Milwaukee primary, Wisconsin primary that, gave us Crowley as the Democrat nominee and the Republican nominee being Tom Tiffany. So Crowley ran the county since 2020. Now he's carrying our name onto the statewide ballot in November against Congressman Tom Tiffany, who represents Wisconsin and has President Trump's endorsement. Is that a bad thing or a good thing? I don't know. Sometimes Trump can push you through. That's the matchup, folks. A Milwaukee Democrat who just survived a razor-thin primary against a Trump-endorsed Republican congressman. Okay, no, it was whatever. This general election is going to be a fight, though. Okay, so he has to survive, all the way up into November, and then make it past November to become the governor. Are you feeling good about this matchup, Milwaukee? Drop your take. Because I can't honestly say that I have really made up my mind who I think should be the governor. I don't want to. I don't know. It's tough, man. Crowley has a lot of questions that he need to answer, like about the MCTS budget deficit, and just these parks, the stuff that went on in the sheriff department. I mean, it's a lot of stuff he has to answer to. The roads, why we got bad roads. Okay, you always on the road, man. You always on the road. You need to be here and be our county executive. You always on the road, though. Yep. So, yeah, will it be Crowley or would it be Tom Tiffany? Tell me what you think. Now let's shift our gears a bit. Okay. I'm not going to pretend that's easy to do. We got a sad one, folks. Thursday morning, just after 9:30, a 16-year-old was shot and killed near 40th and Clark Street on Milwaukee's north side. Police say a suspect fired from inside a car. The teenager died at the scene. His name was Armani Thomas Cotton. This is what really, really disappointed me, man. Where's Ben Crump? Okay, where the hell is Ben Crump? Where the hell is Von Mays? Can somebody tag him? Where is he? Where is he? Where's that other feller? Tory. All of these community activists, all of these social justice warriors. I mean, they will be stumping the ground, ready to tear something up in the city. If it's a white man that kills a black boy or a black man, or a police officer kills another obstructive criminal, I mean, they'll be parading through the streets. We won't even get no sleep. But when it comes to stuff like this, you know, you don't get a huge amount of people coming together, coming around to, you know, seek justice. And the crazy part about all this is they know who the damn suspect is. Okay? This this happened Thursday morning. You mean to tell me nobody was up at 9:30? Okay, and don't give me that excuse that it's the hood. And for those who just joined us, thank you for joining us. I'm Marcus Hart. This is the Urban News Journal, independent, objective, and unafraid. We're talking about a 16-year-old that was shot and killed near 40th and Clark Street on Milwaukee's north side. And we're talking about how we don't never get these social justice warriors. Where the hell is Ben Crump at? Where's Von Mays? Where's all these other people? Okay? Where the hell is the mayor? Hey, Crowley, where are you at? You know, David Crowley. We just talked about David Crowley in the first segment, winning the presidential well, not the presidential. Oh man, I'm promoting that guy too far ahead. Well, he won the Democratic nominee for governor of Wisconsin. So where the hell is he? Okay? We got a 16-year-old shot and killed, and nobody knows nothing. Nobody saw anything. This stuff gotta stop, man. It's gotta stop. It's not fair. And of course, we get the usual things that are said. His family described him as well loved, said he liked to play basketball. A woman named Allie Gray, who survived violence herself, went to the scene and said, quote, "I rushed over here because I am one of him. It don't matter if I knew him or not." So we got people who aren't even big names in the city, you know, making sure they go to the scene to show their support, provide their sympathies. And all of the big names, big wigs, you know, the violence prevention office, you know, nowhere in sight. Nowhere in sight. You know, but yet let somebody get shot by the police. You know, let somebody get shot by the police. They're gonna be parading down the street. They're gonna be tearing up every damn thing, and they're gonna be all over the news. But this constant black on black crime, like, it's gotta stop. When will it stop? Okay, when are we gonna get tired of it? And when are we gonna start, you know, going back to good old fashioned snitching? Whatever happened to snitching? Okay, you know, it's okay to snitch in these type of instances when we're talking about a 16-year-old that was shot and killed. So MPD has a tip line for those who this message is getting to, and you know, you really, you know, are thinking it through and like, you know what? Maybe I need to do something about this. So the tip line, for those who don't know it, if you're here in Milwaukee area, if you live near the Milwaukee area, Milwaukee County, wherever you are, the MPD tip line is 414-939-7360. That's 414-935-7360. And then, of course, the Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers is 414-224-TIPS. Okay, TIPS, not TIPI. TIPS. All right. You know, let's get some justice for these people who are affected by gun violence or they die due to gun violence. They need justice. Okay, I'm back after a brief technical difficulties that occurred on the stream. Oh man, you gotta love technology. Um, it's supposed to be our friend, but it just seems like it works against us at times. Okay. So I just want to apologize to everybody on that one, but the show must go on. I want to go ahead and finish this out, but earlier, if you missed it, if you were on the stream and you got booted off, um, we talked about Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley securing the Democratic nominee by a razor thin margin, as they call it, as they say it is. We talked about a teenager loss. That was the last segment that we covered. A 16-year-old was shot and killed near 40th and Clark. Okay. And I wonder if I should hold the mic. I might have to hold this mic so that like you guys can hear me. The other mic that I got was giving me some trouble. The mic gave me some trouble, and then after that, the whole stream just took a dump, took a nosedive dump. It just it was terrible. It was so terrible. Okay. But again, so those are two stories that we have covered, are very early on. And so let's move on though. Let's move on. We got two more segments. We're gonna go ahead and catch these two segments and close it out. So let's go to Washington for a second. A federal judge dismissed the Trump administration's anti-Semitism lawsuit against Harvard University this week. The judge, Richard G. Stearns, ruled that the incidents the lawsuit was built on, quote, too isolated and episodic. So like, what do you mean by that? So it was isolated and what in an episodic? Am I saying it right? Episodic. Okay, but either way, like what do he mean by that? I'm real confused by what that means. But anyways, he said too isolated, too episodic to prove a persistent civil rights violation. So to be fair for both sides here, the lawsuit accused Harvard of failing to protect Jewish students during protests connected to October 7th. And the administration's Civil Rights Division said students were, quote, harassed, physically assaulted, stalked, and spat upon. Now, that's some serious allegations, and it does deserve to be heard in court. The judge heard it, and he dismissed it. I can imagine the hate mail he's going to get now. And this is actually the second loss for the administration on this front. An earlier ruling already ordered them to restore $2.6 billion. That's $2.6 billion in Harvard research funding that had been cut. I don't know. It seems like there's some type of personal bandana on Harvard going on. So, I mean, Harvard is they got some stuff going on over there, and it reaches up high to the highest places on earth. I wonder what that's all about. So the Justice Department's Harmeet Dahilian said they disagree with the ruling and are, quote, assessing next steps. Harvard says it takes the issue seriously and has stood up a task force on anti-Semitism with reformed discipline policies. Okay, the checks and balances, huh? That's what it's supposed to be. That's what it would appear to be. But I don't know. It's kind of funny to me though how the council culture was so big on anti-Semitism. Calling everybody a Jew hater that didn't agree with maybe some of the things that Israel would push or just this other stuff but I know, and I don't want to say too much, and then I end up getting my channel taken down. But it, maybe it is best, for now, that like they don't win every battle when it comes to anti-Semitism claims. Because it could have been some exaggeration going on. Okay, and if it was dismissed, that means there was no evidence of it. And we know how everybody pulls out their phones nowadays. We would have got some type of evidence, I would think. So the next one is for my veterans watching. Woo-woo. Because I know exactly what this story actually means underneath the headline. So the USS George Washington is heading to the Middle East to relieve the USS Abraham Lincoln. And here's why that matters. The Lincoln has been deployed for over 260 days straight. That's a record-setting stretch with no break. There have been real reported problems. Food and mail shortages. The Navy actually called those reports false back in April, then walked that back and said, quote, leadership prioritized mission-critical supplies. First food, then hygiene. Ew. Can you imagine what it smelled like on that boat? Or on that vessel? Or sub? Yeah, I think it was a submarine. Yeah, submarine, vessel, submarine, vessel, submarine. But anyway, it was one stanky air between everybody. It was stanky. Like, food, but no way to wash your body. I don't know. I think I would just have to survive off of water for a while, and so I can at least be clean. I'm just that type of person. I can't stand being, funky as a billy goat. I can't do it. And then early this month, a sailor went overboard. He was recovered and is getting care. Did he go overboard by accident, or was he pushed? Or did he just, try to go swim with the dolphins and never come back up? What was it? So Defense Secretary Hastef is pushing back hard on how this is being reported. He's calling it completely misrepresented, of course. The Navy says it hasn't seen an increase in suicidal ideation aboard the ship. It's bullshit. Bullshit. What? Really? So you mean to tell me that there's no sailor on board who hasn't had not one episode of suicidal ideation, but you got people jumping off? Okay, so that one person, we didn't do an eval afterwards to see what's going on? Because, that's the problem. That's the problem that veterans are faced with, and those who are still active in the military are faced with. It's like they totally abandon, making sure that we are okay. Okay? Especially when we are not okay. Mental health should be a priority. Whether you're not active or you are active, or whether you're deployed, not deployed, whether you're on duty, off duty. Once you don that uniform on, and then you sign to put your body on a line, you are having this high expectation that, okay, if anything goes wrong with me, they got my back. The Navy got my back. The Secretary of Defense got my back, for crying out loud. But we're seeing totally different right here. I don't get it. Okay, and then we want to just brush it underneath the rug like it's nothing. That ain't fair. That ain't fair, man. That ain't fair to put somebody out in the middle of the sea, 260 plus days away from home, okay? And not really consider what that does to a crew. What relief should look like. Relief should look like making sure that they are equipped, making sure they have the food and proper hygiene items that they need, things to keep the morale up, a doggone psychologist on board, okay? But this is not right. And the White House got to do better. The Defense Department got to do better. Pentagon got to do better. Commanders, of brigades and admirals, generals, they all got to do better, man. They got to come together and really, look out for these enlisted soldiers and also sailors and enlisted sailors and and then the lower officer ranks. They got to do better. So the George Washington left the Ninh, Vietnam last week, and is currently moving through the Strait of Malacca, headed toward the Indian Ocean. No official arrival date set. So sailors, who are out there still at sea, I'll be praying for you guys. I wish the best for you guys. I hope you guys get back home soon, real soon, and so you can get some proper care and proper R&R. Now, all right, let's end on something to do, not just something to worry about. So, True Schools Summer Park Jam Weekend is happening right now through tomorrow. Tonight, there was a CEO session at the Marcus Center for the Performing Arts. Tomorrow, Saturday, it's a free concert at Peck Pavilion, and that's down over at 125 East Kilbourne Avenue, noon to 8 p.m. It's free. If you're looking for something free, if you don't want to go to the state fair this weekend, because maybe the money's not looking right, maybe the money's funny. This is a good event. It's outdoors, and you get to see Milwaukee's full culture on display. So if you are around this weekend, get down there. I might come down there and do a couple street interviews. But that's exactly the kind of Black culture and community program the city deserves more coverage of. And if you see our team out there, come say what's up. Say what's up. Hey, what's going on, Smokey? Yeah. Man, this was quite the show tonight. I did not expect it to go the way it did. And this is only I want to say this is our 5th stream since we decided to come back and bring Urban News Journal back with it, with full force. So even, we're trying to make strives and all that we're doing here, trying to just get good information out there. And I really appreciate you guys for rocking with me every week so far. And, the thing about it is the live stream, the last live stream we had quite a bit of people that was on. This live stream, wasn't so much people, but I could feel the support, kind of sweltering through. So for those who's going to watch this back, I appreciate you as well. It is definitely a pleasure to have you guys support us. So let's recap where we landed. For those who missed it and you only caught this part of the stream, I'm sorry. So Milwaukee's own is headed to a general election for governor. A 16-year-old named Armani. It could be Armani. See, I gotta end my night. Oh, I'm getting tired already. So Thomas Cotton is gone, and his family needs answers more than they need our sympathy. Washington got told no by a judge for a second time this month. A Navy crew that's given 260 plus days is finally getting relief. And this weekend, Milwaukee's got a real reason to show up and celebrate too. You know? So what do you do when the moment tests you through? What do you do? All right. And for me, it's always just reflected back to just how far I have made it. It when you consider all of the rough patches, me personally, when I consider all of the rough patches and then look at where I'm at now in comparison, I always say to myself, it could have been worse. It could have been worse, you know. And what helps me every day, and I say this on every stream towards the end, is my faith. Knowing that no matter how the moment tests you, that there's something to fall on in case I do fall. Something to not only to fall on, but to be picked back up and to be motivated to keep running. Now, you might be someone right now who's struggling. You are maybe overwhelmed by the news cycle and you feel like one side gets heard more than the other. I want to encourage you to remember what you do when the moment tests you is what's going to determine how you be able to respond next time. It's the little things we do in the moment. And it could be something easy as calling 988, the crisis line. It could be calling 911 when you have witnessed someone doing something wrong that they ain't supposed to or taking a life. It could be, calling out injustice. Or maybe your jam is advocating for veterans. Whatever your jam is, okay? When your moment arises, be prepared to do something. Take action. Don't get stuck. Don't freeze. And if you're new here, subscribe. It's free. And it's how this channel grows. Drop in the comments which story hit the hardest tonight. Well, at least the two that you heard on this part of the stream. I am going to put both together and just post it. So yeah. And if you want this recap straight to your inbox, we have something very new for you. The newsletter goes out free twice a week. The link for that is in the description as well. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I'm Marcus Hart. This has been the Urban News Journal. Independent, objective, unafraid. Stay locked in. I will see you guys next time, next week.